Have you ever wondered why some people sound instantly confident and intelligent in English, while others, despite knowing thousands of words, still struggle to connect their thoughts smoothly? The secret isn't hidden in complex grammar or rare vocabulary. It lies in the subtle art of advanced communication. Imagine being able to choose the perfect word, shift your tone effortlessly, and weave sentences that flow like music. In this masterclass, we uncover the final bridge from good English to great English, revealing techniques that will not only refine your speech, but also transform the way others listen to you. When we think about reaching an advanced level of English, many learners immediately imagine something complicated. Endless lists of academic words, extremely formal grammar, or long, difficult sentences that sound more like they belong in a textbook than in real life. This picture often feels intimidating, almost as if fluency is a distant mountain peak that only a few can climb. But here's the surprising truth. Advanced English is not about memorizing unusual vocabulary or sounding overly sophisticated. It is about the effortless art of clear, natural, and adaptable communication. This is the first and perhaps the most important step we must redefine together. Think of communication as painting a picture. A beginner may only have access to a handful of primary colors, red, blue, and yellow. They can still create something, but their options are limited, and the result may feel flat. A master, on the other hand, knows how to mix countless shades, creating depth, nuance, and emotion in every brushstroke. Your words are the colors on your palette. At the advanced level, English becomes less about simply saying what you mean and more about choosing the precise shades that create the right tone for the situation. For example, imagine you are talking with friends. You might casually say, "I'm a bit tired today." It's simple, direct, and completely fine for a casual context. But imagine the same thought expressed in a professional email to your manager. "I'm feeling slightly fatigued after a long day of meetings." Both sentences mean the same thing, yet one feels casual and the other feels polished, formal, and appropriate for the workplace. This ability to shift your style depending on who you're speaking to is a hallmark of true fluency. What makes this fascinating is that you already have the basic ingredients, the vocabulary, the grammar, the ability to form sentences. What separates a learner from an advanced communicator is the awareness of context and the ability to adapt. Just as a skilled actor can perform the same line with humor, seriousness, or tenderness depending on the role, you too can learn to adjust your English so it always fits the moment. Let's make this practical. Take a simple, blunt sentence, "I don't like this idea," clear, yes, but it risks sounding harsh, maybe even dismissive. Now, listen to the advanced alternative. "I'm not entirely convinced this is the best approach." Do you hear the difference? The message remains the same, but the second version is softer, more diplomatic, and more likely to keep the conversation open rather than shutting it down. This is the kind of transformation that turns ordinary English into powerful communication. So, the first key to advanced English is not about harder words, but smarter choices. It is about developing the flexibility to move between tones, adapting your speech to the people, the setting, and the purpose. Once you begin to see English this way, not as a rigid set of rules. Now that we understand advanced English is not about showing off with obscure vocabulary, but about making smarter, more flexible choices, let's explore how we can transform simple, everyday expressions into polished, sophisticated communication. This is where you begin to hear the music of the language, the rhythm, tone, and flow that separate good speakers from great ones. Take a very common phrase, "I don't know." Almost every learner uses it, and of course it is not wrong. But sometimes it can make you sound uncertain or even uninterested. An advanced speaker might choose instead, "I'm not certain at the moment." Notice the difference. It feels thoughtful rather than careless. It suggests you are considering the question carefully, even if you don't have the answer right now. This small upgrade in vocabulary instantly changes the impression you give. Another simple sentence, "It's a big problem." Direct, yes, but a little flat. By replacing big with a more precise word, you can make your English far more powerful. You could say, "It's a substantial problem," or "It's a considerable challenge." Each alternative carries weight and makes your speech sound more professional. This is not about memorizing endless lists of synonyms. It's about training your brain to reach automatically for the word that best fits the context. This shift is not only about vocabulary, but also about tone. Let's look at the sentence, I don't like this idea. In many situations, that could feel too blunt. A more advanced phrasing would be, I'm not entirely convinced this is the best approach. Here you are expressing the same meaning, but in a softer, more diplomatic way. The beauty of this approach is that it doesn't close the conversation. Instead, it invites further discussion, which makes you sound collaborative rather than confrontational. This principle also applies when we shadow or repeat sentences in practice. Shadowing, as you learned, is about listening carefully and repeating immediately, trying to match pace, rhythm, and intonation. When you shadow advanced phrases like, I understand your point, but perhaps we could reschedule instead of canceling altogether, you are not just learning new words, you are training your ear and your tongue to produce English that flows naturally, sounds polite, and fits real-life communication. Paraphrasing is another essential tool here. Imagine someone says, she was very happy about the news. You could easily repeat it, but an advanced communicator might paraphrase, she was absolutely delighted when she heard the news. Or even more vivid, the news filled her with immense joy. By learning to express the same idea in different ways, you not only expand your vocabulary, but also make your speech more engaging and dynamic. All of this leads us to an important realization. Advanced English is about choice. At any moment, you have more than one way to express yourself. The skill you must develop is the ability to choose the version that is Ramon die. In the previous step, we focused on upgrading your vocabulary and phrasing, transforming simple expressions into polished, sophisticated ones. But advanced English does not stop at word choice. To truly sound natural, you must master the art of flow, connecting your ideas smoothly, keeping conversations alive, and making your speech feel effortless rather than robotic. This is where connectors, transitions, and paraphrasing become your most powerful tools. Think of a conversation as a dance. If one partner moves too suddenly or stops too abruptly, the dance becomes awkward. The same is true in English. Short, disconnected sentences may be correct, but they feel stiff and unnatural. Native speakers weave their thoughts together, guiding the listener with subtle connectors like, however, on the other hand, as a result, or conversational bridges such as, I see what you mean, but... These little words and phrases are like the music that keeps the dance flowing. For example, imagine someone asks for your opinion. A basic response might be a simple yes or no. But such short answers often close the door on the conversation. Instead, you could say, yes, I see your point, but on the other hand, have we considered this perspective? Suddenly, you are not only answering, you are extending the dialogue, showing engagement, and inviting the other person to think with you. This is a hallmark of advanced communication. You are no longer a passive participant, but an active partner. Paraphrasing also plays a crucial role in this. When you restate what someone has said in different words, you achieve two goals at once. First, you demonstrate that you are listening carefully. Second, you give the conversation new energy. If a colleague says, I'm worried we don't have enough time to finish this project, you could reply, so, if I'm hearing you correctly, you're concerned we might miss the deadline. This not only confirms understanding but also keeps the discussion focused and collaborative. Shadowing, which you practiced earlier, is another excellent way to internalize this flow. By repeating advanced sentences immediately after hearing them, you begin to capture not just the words, but the rhythm, intonation, and musicality of natural English. For instance, instead of saying bluntly, no, let's not cancel the meeting, an advanced version could be, I understand your point, but perhaps we could reschedule instead of canceling altogether. When you shadow such phrases, you are training yourself to speak in a way that feels constructive, polite, and professional. The result of practicing these techniques is that your English no longer feels like a series of isolated blocks. Instead, it becomes a continuous stream, clear, logical, and engaging. You begin to think in connectors, to respond with paraphrasing, to shadow and echo naturally. And when you do, the people you speak with will notice not only your vocabulary, but also your fluency, your ability to guide the conversation. In the last section, we learned how to create flow in conversations, how connectors, paraphrasing, and shadowing allow you to weave your ideas together naturally. But fluency alone is not enough. To truly master advanced English, you must also master the art of professional communication. How to express disagreement without offense, how to make requests without sounding demanding, and how to frame your ideas so that others receive them with respect and openness. This is the subtle difference between simply speaking well and communicating with real influence. Politeness and diplomacy are central to this skill. In English-speaking cultures, how you say something often matters as much as what you say. A direct phrase such as "close the window" may be grammatically correct, but it risks sounding rude. By softening it to, "Would you mind closing the window?" you instantly change the tone from a command to a respectful request. The meaning is the same, but the impression you create is entirely different. The same principle applies when you disagree. In the previous section, we practiced replacing blunt sentences like, "I don't like this idea," with softer alternatives such as, "I'm not entirely convinced this is the best approach." But we can go even further. Instead of saying, "You're wrong," which sounds confrontational, you could say, "I see where you're coming from, but I have a slightly different perspective." Or, "That's an interesting point, but perhaps we could also consider another approach." Notice how these versions validate the other person before offering your own opinion. This balance of respect and clarity is one of the strongest markers of advanced communication. Another strategy that elevates your professionalism is framing. Framing means giving context before delivering your main point, so your listener can understand not only what you are saying, but also why you are saying it. For example, instead of abruptly stating, "We can't finish this today," you could frame it as, "Given the amount of time we have left, it's unlikely we'll be able to finish this today." By offering context first, you soften the impact and help others see the logic behind your statement. Tone also plays a crucial role here. Speaking too quickly or too forcefully can make you seem nervous or aggressive. Advanced speakers use tone deliberately, slowing down when emphasizing important points, pausing to give weight to their words, and lowering their voice slightly when discussing serious matters. These subtle adjustments project calm confidence and make your message far more persuasive. Finally, remember the importance of hedging language. Expressions that make your statements sound less absolute and therefore more diplomatic. Phrases such as, "It seems that," "There might be a small mistake here," or "Perhaps you could consider," are not signs of weakness. On the contrary, they show sophistication. They allow you to contribute your ideas firmly yet respectfully, which is invaluable in proposal.